So welcome everyone for a new live webinar with Catenda, and today we co-host the event with our partner Vrex. So about the schedule today, we will first present both companies, and then we'll go through a roundtable about virtual reality in BIM. And anytime you have question, you can just put your question in the question section, and we will go through all the questions at the end of the session. So my name is Eva, and I am a digital brand and marketing manager at Catenda, and I am here with Benjamin, who is customer success and product owner at Catenda. And I am with Chris today, who is the person in charge of virtual reality implementation at Vrex.
Hello.
And today we'll talk about demystifying virtual reality in the construction. And now Ben is going to give you a little bit of the background of Catenda.
Hi guys, thanks Eva for the introduction. Catenda is a software company, the software company behind Bimsync, which we are going to see today together with Vrex. And it's based in Norway with branches across Europe and the US. For example, I'm based in Germany. And the goal of Catenda is to make the AECO industry data-driven using open standards. So just keep open standards in mind, because you're going to see this across everything that Catenda does, everything that's in Bimsync, and also what then goes over to Vrex. And we thought about how to do this, and we know the main way to get the industry more data-driven is to make BIM, VDC, or digital planning, how you choose to call it, more inclusive and not exclusive. So with this, we mean include all project participants in the collaboration of the project, and also giving them access to all the data, maybe the 2D data to the 3D data, no matter where they are. So Chris, next slide, please. So just to give you a quick idea what's behind Bimsync and what Bimsync does as a collaboration platform and also as a CDE, is that we store all types of documents for a project on the cloud. We also store the models, and we also give you the chance to collaborate and communicate using these models. So what you see here on the screen is what we call the magic triangle. So we not only give you these 3 points separated, we actually connect them to each other. So I'm actually able to connect documents to models. I'm able to collaborate based on models or collaborate based on documents that I have in my project. And these come together to form this magic triangle, which we will see then later on in the live demonstration within Bimsync. So now I will hand it over to Chris for him to give a quick introduction to Vrex.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Appreciate it. So Vrex is essentially a continuation of what you're seeing there with Bimsync. So in Bimsync, you can view the 3D building information models all consolidated together, and you can find and track issues. And Vrex basically takes that one step further in allowing all of the project stakeholders to essentially become immersed in a life-size digital environment of their projects using virtual reality. And so essentially, like what I like to tell people is, if an owner is doing a walkthrough with the architect or the contractor of their building after it's been built, essentially before construction starts, you can actually go through and do that digital walkthrough and approve and verify the design if you're the owner, and then the design team can actually coordinate together in a life-size environment. And what's amazing is when you're in a life-size environment, you can actually see that today when we demonstrate that here in a few moments. But when you're in a life-size environment and you're seeing things at full scale and you're immersed, you just catch things and experience the design in a different way than just looking at building information models on a 2D screen alone. And so what's really great is that, it's easy to use, it's easy to understand and see exactly what things are going to be like and find issues and make decisions before construction even starts. So I like to tell people that half of the value is actually being in virtual reality and being in a life-size environment, but the other half of the value is actually this multi-user part. So what you're going to see today is that multiple people are going to be in the VR session, and we're all actually in different locations. I'm here in the US, and then Ben, and then I've got another colleague, Hans, who's going to be actually in Europe, and we're going to be all at the same time actually talking and collaborating. So what's great is it's not only am I walking through in VR, but I'm actually able to talk and point out together and essentially meet as if we're out on the job site, a digital version of that, even before construction starts. Then once construction actually does begin, then what's great is with Vrex, we can actually take the as-built conditions of point cloud scans from the field, and we can bring those into a virtual reality environment and overlay them with the building information models. So for instance, here in like some of the images, you can actually see when there are field deviations and differences out on site, and you can compare those against what's actually going on with the original design and the 3D models. I've been on a lot of projects where it's been very frustrating and confusing trying to explain field deviations and field conditions through RFIs and normal written processes and pictures and snapshots, and then trying to convey that back to the design team and the owner. When you can actually bring the point clouds back with the 3D building information models together, get everybody in a multi-user VR session, it's much easier to collaborate, see exactly what the condition is, and then make decisions. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pass it back over to Ben, and he's going to actually first do a little bit of a live demonstration in Bimsync. Then we're going to hop over into VR, and then we will finish up with some questions at the end.
So before we get into the cool stuff with VR and Vrex and looking at cool models, let me just give you a quick introduction to Bimsync and maybe what a typical workflow and a project could look like. So on Bimsync, as a common data environment, a CDE based on open formats, you will have your models, you will have your issues, and you will have all your documents. So all your data will be hosted here on the cloud, and you have access to this data via the internet. So you don't need to be installing anything on your system. So here you just have a completely flexible folder structure that you can set up exactly the way you want it, give it right access and stuff like that. But today we won't focus too much on the document. The main focus is going to be on the models and on the issues, because this is what we are going to be then using in Vrex to kind of have a virtual meeting in the actual model. So from the model side, if I just turn on the 3D viewer, we can see that on Bimsync, each engineer or each sub has uploaded their discipline models, and all of these come together here to form a federated model that is made up of different disciplines, and all project participants then can just quickly get into this project. So here, as I said, we have a project, skyscraper project. You can see it's fairly detailed, it's fairly big. And then if I go a step further, we have then the different issues that we're going to be looking at. So we have here on Bimsync already created some issues, some coming out of Solibri, some coming out directly from Bimsync, and some were also created in Vrex. So let me just use the bookmark to kind of home into the area that we're going to be taking a deeper look at. So before I do this, a quick explanation or a quick example of how a typical workflow could look like. So you have the designing part taking place, then the designers are going to be delivering stuff, and then there's going to be a collaboration taking place. So you're actually going to be collaborating with different disciplines, different engineers to give you a model that is holistic and also coordinated. let's say different engineers are working in different software, authoring software, for example, in Revit, in Archicad, Allplan, whatever the case may be. They design and deliver IFC models onto Bimsync. From the moment that they deliver this data to Bimsync, everyone in the project is able to view this. So everybody's going to be like viewing it and using it to do different tasks. The BIM manager maybe will go and then say, okay, let me start doing my clash detection. He will do his clash detection and have then results as BCF, and this BCF files will also be connected or uploaded directly onto Bimsync. And this is where it gets interesting. For the coordination meeting is where actually the different parties come together, and this time around we are actually going to be meeting virtually in the model, in the building, and looking at these different issues that have been created. So yeah, now let's just have a look at the issues that we're going to be looking at. So these are some issues that were created from Solibri. So if I kind of click on this, what then happens in the model is that it's going to take me to this issue. Let me just delete this clipping plane. So now I'm actually in the model. If I just click on this again, it will take me directly to this spot. And if I want to see more, I would just add a clipping plane here, turn on the rest of the objects, or turn on more models. Let's say we want to see the architectural model to understand more what's going on and where this is actually happening. And as I mentioned, we have created some example issues, so we don't need to be creating all of these in the project. But what I will still do is just create a quick issue. So now let's find a quick issue to report. I'm just going to create a section here, cut through, and already I'm seeing that there's a collision with the sprinkler pipe and the ventilation duct here at the top. So you would just home in on this, create an issue. So I would just go over here and say issue, create new issue, and we will call it collision sprinkler and ventilation. Here I could kind of even mark up this better. So I'll make a circle here, I have an arrow so you know where this is taking place. I could assign this to someone in the project. So I will assign this to Chris. And submit. And that's it. We have just created an issue in Bimsync. And later on, we'll be able to view this also in Vrex. So with this, I will just hand over to Chris for him to prepare the Vrex environment, and then we will all meet up there to have a virtual meeting based on these issues that we have created, and we will also be creating issues on the Vrex side. Yeah, so now I'm in the virtual building together with Chris and Hans, and we are going to have a look at a couple of issues. Take over, Chris.
Yeah, hey Benjamin, so welcome into the session. Hey Hans, how's it going over there? Awesome. So before we get started, the first thing I just want to showcase to everyone is that Hans is in virtual reality with me, and Benjamin, you're on your desktop. And so here inside of VR, from my view, I can see basically a computer screen icon for your avatar, and that distinguishes that you're on desktop, whereas Hans is in VR because I can see him moving around. What's great about being in multi-user virtual reality like this is that not only am I teleported to a life-size version of the project and doing essentially a walkthrough, but I can hear you guys at the same time. So it's kind of like we're just doing an online meeting. But whenever we talk about an issue, like if we point towards, like, say, this table and we want it to be a little bit larger, or I'm actually even watching Hans right now sort of investigate what these kind of these key lock pads are essentially floating in space, I can see exactly what he's doing. And so it almost feels like a live interaction. The only thing that I feel like is missing in this VR environment is I just can't see your eyes,
But otherwise, because I can see your hand movements, your gestures, your head nods, and everything like that, you truly get like a collaborative experience together. So with that being said, you had some issues that you created over in Bimsync, Benjamin, and I'm going to go ahead and go to that issue here real quick. So I'll go to our issue manager. And then on your side, if you don't mind going ahead and show on the desktop in Vrex the issue as well. So I see there's this collision sprinkler and ventilation. So I can go to viewpoints. It'll then show me a thumbnail. And the first thing I can do is I can say teleport myself there or teleport us all there. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the teleport all. So we're going to all be kind of stacked on top of each other, brought up to this specific location. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the clipping. So that way it actually clips the model. And so this gives us the good context, just like you had set up, Benjamin, over in Bimsync. And so here also, if I had any selected objects that were included in that, we could see it, or I could clear that. But here, this is great. Like, in fact, Hans, it's fantastic that you're really up close to it. And I can see both of you right now looking at the clash. And so using the laser pointer, for instance, I can see right here. So Hans, do you see where like basically that sprinkler is going right through the ductwork? So Benjamin, this is the issue that you wanted us to look at right here, right? This basically, this is clashing through here, correct?
Yes, correct. So now it'll be for us to kind of decide what are the next steps to take here, and what are the solutions that we could kind of come up with.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just measure. Let me just go to the measurement tool, and we'll measure from the ceiling to the floor. So it looks like this is about a 3 meter ceiling and clear space height. And so I guess we'd probably, right now it looks pretty tight here from the structural slab of the floor above to like actually the ceiling level. So we don't look like, it doesn't look like we have a ton of room to reroute. Maybe we could go underneath. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a red line. And so we can see that this is actually kind of trying to go through here, but maybe I'll just show another routing underneath. Or maybe this will just go all the way across. So essentially I've got, the measurement here. I've got a red line of a proposed solution. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just go ahead and take a snapshot and add a comment to this existing basically issue. So I'll say add. Let's try to route this underneath the air duct. So now I've added that comment, and that's going to automatically synchronize through the cloud back to Bimsync. And so basically, Benjamin, when you log in and show back on your desktop in Bimsync, you should see my added comment and snapshot here of the red lines that we just did. So Hans, it looks like you found another issue here. There's some sort of keypads or something floating in space. Benjamin, would you mind like hopping on my shoulders and then we can go down and take a look at it together?
Not at all. Let me just click here, and now I'm on your shoulders already.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and zoom on down.
Yeah, so this seems like a temperature regulator that was attached to walls, and things like this usually happen when you copy a floor to the next. So I would assume that the other floor had cubicles, so they haven't made the necessary changes yet for the open space layout. So Chris, you could go ahead and make an issue out of that.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go to red lines here real quick, and I'll just draw here that we want to remove these. Then I'll just go over to our issue creation. I'll just take a picture for the thumbnail. You can actually select objects as well. remove temperature boxes. So here you can see the text or the voice to text recognition, and then I could put a deeper description if I need to. I'll just say next. We can then set basically the status, the type of issue that this is. Really, this is probably just a warning, so we'll just say warning, say next, and then I'm going to go ahead and save this. And when I press save, it's going to automatically synchronize through the cloud over into Bimsync. And now that we've added the comments here and essentially created this new issue, Benjamin, why don't you go ahead and take over on your desktop, and then go ahead and let's look at this issue over in Bimsync.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris. So here we are back in Bimsync. As we can see, the previous issues and the issue that Chris just created. So let's just have a look at the one that Chris commented on. So this was the issue with the sprinkler pipe colliding with the ventilation duct. And here we see the suggestion from Chris. So we could actually go back and view this in Bimsync. So let's wait where the models load. Right, so here we have it, and here we have the screenshot. So we could even go now and add a comment to say, I will coordinate with MEP and structure. Submit. Yeah, so now let's go back to the issues and have a look at the temperature boxes. So here we have the screenshot, the markup that Chris did in Vrex. And if I press play, it will take us now exactly to this point. I can have a look at this. And I see here, there's a whole line of temperature boxes that needs to be removed or get placed somewhere else. So I could go to this issue and say work in progress, and I'll just put a quick comment. I will inform the electrical guy. So yeah, that's it from Bimsync. Let's kind of wrap up and get ready for the Q&A session.
Thank you, Chris and Benjamin and Hans for this demonstration in Bimsync and in Vrex. We received some questions from the participants, so I will start with a question from Steve. How is the cloud connection made? It means 4G, Wi-Fi, or something else?
Yeah, I assume this question is related to like on the VR side. So basically what happens is in Vrex, for the live meeting, it just basically goes through your normal internet path, right? And basically we're just managing the users, kind of like what you would do like on a normal online meeting session. Basically you log into your session, like there's a meeting room in Vrex that you can set up. And essentially those meeting rooms are associated to projects. And then we have a sort of like a desktop application that you install on your PC. And then everybody just basically logs into their account or a guest room code. They log into the session, and then basically the Vrex application sort of manages that through just sort of our hosted services out in the cloud. So it feels basically when you log into Vrex a lot like how you would join a normal online meeting.
And the same thing also applies to Bimsync. So the stuff that's on the cloud on Bimsync, you just connect using your standard internet connection.
Thank you. I have a question for you, Chris. What headset is Vrex compatible with?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good question. So essentially, pretty much any mainstay VR headsets are out there. I would say the Meta Quest 2 headset is probably the most common. The HP Reverb G2 Generation 2 is also pretty common. And then there are quite a few different Vive headsets that are also out there. So pretty much any of the mainstay VR headsets that are out there on the market are pretty much compatible. And we've actually got a whole section on our website dedicated to which headsets are compatible with Vrex. And if you've had a VR headset from a long time ago, like an old Oculus Rift, those are compatible as well. And even a lot of the older just Windows mixed reality headsets that are from a few years ago, those are also compatible.
Jacob asks, can I attach object to the issue?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So like, Ben had showed like where you could select objects and models that are associated to an issue in Bimsync, but the same thing over in Vrex. So when I see the models, if there are specific issues that are related to the issue, I can do the red lines, but I can also select those objects and remember the selection of objects that are tied to that issue.
Yeah, and to add to that, on Bimsync side, you could attach objects as well as documents to a BCF file, which is the issues. So that works on that side as well, and it's compatible. So whatever I do on the Bimsync side, I'll be able to see on the Vrex side, and whatever I do on the Vrex side, I'll also be able to see on the Bimsync side.
Okay, Rubens is asking, how is Bimsync different from BIM collaboration platform from Autodesk?
Good question. I mentioned very early in the presentation that everything that we do are based on open standards. So the main difference here is that with a BIM collaboration platform from Autodesk, you are kind of in the Autodesk world, so you have to be using Autodesk products and be able to collaborate. And our idea or our philosophy is that it doesn't matter which software you're using to create your models, you'll be able to collaborate using Bimsync via the IFC as an open format and also the BCF format. So we support open formats and make it possible for every project participant to use their own authoring software. It doesn't have to be Revit or an Autodesk product.
Is Vrex included in Bimsync as a product? Asked by Vladimir.
It is not included in the product, but like basically we have the integration. There's no extra fee for the integration, so we don't sell each other's software, but essentially we just integrate together. So if you actually go to vrex.no, you can go to our website. You can sign up for a trial, and you can kind of see everything about us. And then we actually have some video content that actually shows the integration as well.
Yeah, so to add to that, it's not included, but we work very closely together since we are, I would say, the founders of both companies are friends and it's very closely related. So it's very compatible with each other.
Agreed. Yep.
June asked about, does the latest Vive Focus 3 work with Vrex too?
Yeah, the Vive Focus is compatible with Vrex. Yep.
Okay, and I have another question for Vrex from Jonathan. Does Vrex still require the local Steam client on the user's PC to support VR?
So I assume this is a Vive user that's asking about Steam. So for if you're using a Vive headset and you're plugging into your PC, then yeah, you still have to have Steam installed, because basically Steam is connecting the headset with the PC. And then Vrex has the desktop application itself that loads the models and runs the session. So, and that's pretty applicable for all of the headsets. So let's say even on the Quest, if you're plugging in the Quest, you'll have the what used to be called the Oculus software running on the computer, and then you'll also have the Vrex desktop software, and then you basically connect your headset to the computer, and it goes through that either Steam or the Oculus software. Or if you're in a Windows mixed reality headset, there's a Windows mixed reality software, and basically the headset is communicating with your PC, and basically Vrex is running on your computer and going to your headset.
I have a question from Michael. The audio to text function, what language is support for that function?
Yep, that's a good question. I think we have like 5 or 6 different languages that are supported for basically working with Vrex. And I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but they are on our website. It's 5 or 6 of the major like European languages.
Okay. Benjamin, I have a question from Ruben. Is Bimsync being used by companies in the US? What is the typical business size of your clients?
So yes, Bimsync is being used by companies in the US. I must say we are fairly new in the US market, and the company size are, I think I could even mention a very big company in the US, construction company, B&K, using Bimsync. So there's no limitation on the size. I would say even the bigger the company, the better, because the whole company gets to have access to their different projects from on one particular one common data environment. So which actually is a benefit.
Thank you. I have a question from Ruben again. What design application is Bimsync compatible with?
We support most authoring softwares, or the well-known ones like Revit, Archicad, also BricsCAD, DDS CADs, and also clash detection software like Solibri, Navisworks, and a couple others.
I have a question from Lucas. Can I see the parameters of the objects in VR?
Yep, that's a good question. Yeah, so we have an inquiry or an information mode. So anything that's published from the IFC, or we also have a plugin with Navisworks. So if there's any properties in the model that are published, essentially you can click on those objects and then you can see all of the property sets and the properties or attributes that are inside of the model.
Okay, thank you. A question from Mohamed. Is there any option in Bimsync that drives me directly to the issue in authoring software so we can solve the small issue immediately?
Yes, very good question. There is. So for the softwares that I mentioned before, the authoring softwares and also the clash detection softwares, there are plugins that gives you access directly to Bimsync and the issues that are on Bimsync, which you could just click on and it will take you to the viewpoint in your authoring software, so you could then solve the problem at hand.
I have another question about Bimsync from Henkiang. Are the comments made in Bimsync visible in Revit?
Yes, they are, and you could also make comments in Revit and they will be visible in Bimsync or any other software that's being connected to Bimsync.
Okay. Chris, a question from Mohamed. Does Vrex exclusively work with Bimsync?
That's a good question. So just as Ben was saying like earlier, Vrex is as committed to open BIM as Bimsync is. So we actually have partnerships and integrations with a variety of different authoring softwares as well as BIM collaboration platforms. And again, we are dedicated to IFC. We do have support like for native Autodesk like through Navisworks from the models point of view. But basically, we're committed to IFC as well as leveraging the BCF or BIM collaboration format for exchanging comments.
I have another question for you, Chris, from Lucas. Vrex is very good in design stage. During construction, can I use it for 4D purposes?
Yes, that's a good question. So Vrex isn't going to allow you to sort of animate or show the sequencing per se. You can kind of mock it up by turning on and off models. So if you sort of exported different phases of the project into different progressive parts of the schedule, then essentially you could have everybody in VR and you could sort of turn on different sequences or phases of the project and show somewhat like a 4D kind of progression, but there isn't really any built-in automated timeliner or 4D functionality in Vrex.
And a question for you again, Chris, from Rubens. Does Vrex support Revit?
Yes, that's a good question. So there's two ways to get Revit models over into Vrex. The first one is an IFC export from Revit. The other one is if you consolidate all of your RVT files or your Revit models into Navisworks first, then basically we have a Navisworks plugin that will then publish the models from Navisworks over into Vrex for you to view in virtual reality.
Okay, and Michael asked if French is available, I guess, in the text to, I mean, in the audio to text.
So I'm actually checking with my team right now to see what if all of our 5 translated languages in the software itself like are all voice to text. So I'll probably have to follow up with you just to make sure, so I don't speak out of turn, that the voice to text is supported along with the actual translation of the tooltips and things like in the software itself.
Okay, and we will take a last question from Mohamed. Can I see the issue on the floor plans if I need to know where is the exact location?
Yes, you could see it. Bimsync, what we didn't see is there's also a 2D floor plan being generated from the IFC model. So you could actually see where you are on the floor plan.
Yeah, from our side, we have the ability to kind of see like in a plan view where different people are at. But if the question is like, is there any kind of like thumbnails or like icons in the floor plans to tell us where all the issues are at? We currently don't have that in Vrex, but basically what you will see is a list of all the issues in the session, and then you just progressively click through each one of those issues, and then it zooms you to that specific location in the project where that issue was captured, kind of like what we saw during the demonstration. And then once you kind of get there, if you need to know exactly where in the project you're at, you can look in the floor plan view and see exactly where your avatars are located at.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Ben. We are running out of time. We still have some questions, but we will get back to you to answer them as soon as possible, writing to you. Yeah. So I wanted to thank everybody who joined the session. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Chris. And see you in the next session.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a nice day.
Bye.